Trade for Washington State is absolutely vital. I think that we're the most trade-dependent state in the nation, and if you've been following the news recently, you'll know that there's been a lot of analysis around how important it is to us, both import and export. It was reported that about 150,000 jobs in the state of Washington rely on trade directly. And so anytime we look at these issues of trade disputes, it's a real threat to our economy locally. We at the Port of Seattle are constantly doing what we can to ensure that we are conducive to both the import and export of goods and people. It's essential for ensuring that our region is a global nexus for trade. And some of the obstacles we face right now are things that we have very little control over. What the federal government is doing in terms of sparking a trade dispute with our largest trade partner here in Washington State, which is China. Importers in Canada don't have to pay what's called a harbor maintenance tax, which we pay here in the United States. And that harbor maintenance tax is well intended. It's to dredge ports. But in our case, because we have a natural deep water port, the taxes that we collect end up going to other ports around the country. So we don't see a whole lot of benefit from that, and it ends up being just an added cost that our Canadian rivals don't have to pay. So it makes it hard for us to compete dollar for dollar with them. There's some things about the Port of Seattle that we can't change. For example, we are mountain bound, so the trains that come out of here need to head south and then up the Columbia River, and there's some aspects to the rail lines coming out of Seattle. They're busy. We're competing with other things besides the goods that we bring into market and export out of market that may be more lucrative at times for the rail line. So we have to negotiate with them to ensure that we have the capacity we need to intermodal transit of the containers that come in. In addition, we need to make sure that we have freight mobility through the region. So traffic mitigation is really important to the Port of Seattle, and a real concern about our long-term viability. And then on top of that, our ports right now are committed to making investments to accommodate the larger ships that are coming online for trans-Pacific trade. And so we need to make sure that we have the equipment and the capacity at our ports to handle that. And we're committed both as the Northwest Seaport Alliance and directly at the Port of Seattle to make sure that we're ready for that new larger vessel world that's coming.